بسم الله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. My name is Usman Mughni. I am a licensed marriage and family therapist, and today I want to talk about bringing up complaints, bringing up concerns, criticisms, worries to your partner, to your loved one. And does this count as ingratitude, right? Because sometimes we question, subhanAllah, am I being too picky? Am I making a big deal out of this? If I bring up complaints, does that make me an ungrateful spouse? So we're going to talk about how to bring up complaints, how we should handle receiving complaints or criticisms, and then how to deal with those emotions that follow um, these type of conversations. So as far as bringing up complaints, the first thing that we have to keep in mind is that when you are upset, when you're hurt, when you find something wrong, most of the time that feeling doesn't necessarily automatically mean that the other person is right or wrong, right? We tend to fall into this trap that if I feel sad, automatically the other person is wrong. It's black and white. For the most part, you can feel a certain way. You can feel sad without the other person necessarily having to be completely wrong or right. So this is one attitude that I encourage people to kind of move away from. You can be sad, being hurt, being upset doesn't always necessitate that the other person is right or wrong. All right, so that's the first thing. The second thing when it comes to bringing up complaints is to try and find that balance between one extreme of, well, I don't want to bring up anything ever, so I'm just going to keep it in, keep it in, keep it in, keep it in. And what happens is eventually you just blow up, right? I actually tell couples that one pattern that I'm really worried about is the couples which never fight. And what I mean by that is that they never discuss things, they never talk about their concerns, because then it just takes that one fight to break everything, right? So that's one extreme, is just keeping it all in. The other extreme is having no filter whatsoever. It's okay to share, but have consideration of the time, the place. Take some time. And I know sometimes we get anxiety that, well, if I don't get this off my chest, it's just going to eat away at me. It's okay to take an hour or two, step back, and think about that deeper feeling, right? And so what I tell people which want to bring up complaints in a healthy way is to take a step back and focus on what we call the primary emotion. What is it that I'm really feeling? My spouse, uh, constantly goes over to his family's house and, doesn't spend that time with me. And instead of me just immediately listing all the times that my husband or my wife went to his or her family's house and, just spent way too much time with them and just shows up all the time, taking a step back and saying, why does it really bother me? What's the deeper feeling? What's the fear? What's the worry? So instead of just blurting it all out, let me take a step back and do some introspection. And maybe I'll come up with, I just don't feel as appreciated, right? I know he's doing a lot. I know she's doing a lot, but sometimes I just worry about being forgotten about or being lonely. Or, I know that my friend, their marriage had problems because of this. Once you find that deeper feeling, summarize it and approach them with that instead of just one example after another after another after another, which just gets exhausting for both of you, right? So summarizing would look like, I just worry about being alone. I just worry, and I know you're trying your best, but I just feel lonely at times. So that way you're not wasting time with all of the minutia, and you're able to go to the deeper feeling and inshallah address that. And once that feeling is addressed, you feel better, you feel heard and understood. So that is finding that balance when you bring up complaints. What about receiving complaints? When we receive complaints, right, we have to ask ourselves, before we jump straight to, oh, how dare they always complain, are there other normal, rational, sane human beings who would be upset, just as upset over the situation? If the answer is yes, there are normal other people, right, then it's not necessarily a matter of right or wrong then. It's their feeling, right? You don't have to agree, but you can empathize with their feeling. It doesn't have to be a matter of we come to the conclusion, I was right, you were wrong. The more important thing is do you make that other person feel understood? Do you make them feel heard? Do you feel heard? Right? We're gonna have complaints. We're gonna have concerns. Even our Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, even his spouses would bring up complaints, would bring up concerns from time to time. It's not a reflection of the marriage. It's human nature. And in fact, the more comfortable we feel being able to bring up these complaints in a healthy manner, the safer we're going to feel in our relationships, the safer we're going to feel, and the less lonely we're going to feel. Knowing that, subhanAllah, anytime I'm hurt, I'm in pain, number one, I know how to process it in the most healthy fashion. And number two, I know how to ask for help. And number three, my partner's there to comfort me, to put me at ease, right? So, again, going over number one, it's okay to bring complaints up. It doesn't make you an ungrateful person, but keep in mind to keep the balance between stuffing it all in and never sharing versus just having no filter whatsoever. Number two, thinking about the deeper feelings and then summarizing that feeling. Number three, when you receive a complaint, put yourself in the other person's shoes and ask, are there any normal, sane, rational human beings which would feel the same way? If the answer is yes, then their feeling is valid, whether you agree or disagree with them. And then the final point overall to remember is that being upset, if I'm upset or I'm hurt, it doesn't necessarily mean automatically that the other person is wrong. It could just be a certain feeling that I'm having. They might have done some things which were wrong, but it's not completely black and white that I was right and they were wrong. May Allah Azza wa Jal give us the hikmah, the wisdom to navigate through these complex relationships and join our hearts in mawadda and rahmah, in love and mercy. Allahumma ameen. Wa sallallahu ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in.